All right, we are going to go ahead and do one more chapter of holes. This will be our last chapter for today. Give me just 1 second to get up to where we need. So in our chapter that we read before, X-Ray got the day off and the rest of the guys had to continue to dig and dig and dig. And the warden thinks that that's where they found the tube. Stanley has realized we're really searching for something, and he's kind of curious to find out what it was. In fact, he even thought about maybe taking the shovels and going out at night, and then he realized he'd never be able to. But the rest of the guys weren't too happy. They've kind of got this process going, and we finally met the warden, who does not seem very nice. Very calm, cool, and collected, but still the one in authority. All right. For the next week and a half, the boys continued to dig in and around the area where X-Ray had supposedly found the gold tube. They widened X-Ray's hole as well as the holes Armpit and Squid had been digging until the 4th day, when all 3 holes met and formed one big hole. As the days wore on, the warden became less and less patient. She arrived later in the morning and left earlier in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the boys continued to dig later and later. "This is no bigger than when I was left yesterday," she said, arriving late one morning well after sunrise. "What have you been doing down there?" "Nothing," said Squid. It was the wrong thing to say. At just that moment, Armpit was returning from a bathroom break. "How nice of you to join us," she said, "and what have you been doing?" "I had to, go." The warden jabbed at Armpit with her pitchfork, knocking him backward into the big hole. The pitchfork left 3 holes in the front of his shirt and 3 tiny spots of blood. "You're giving these boys too much water," the warden told Mr. Pendanski. So this is a little bit of a contrast from what we had seen before, because when we first met the warden, she's like, give them all the water they want. Give them all the water that they want. And so now she's like, you're giving them too much water. And in fact, she even poked Armpit in the shirt with the pitchfork and knocked him into the hole. So here's my question, one thing to think about. Which do you think is really the true nature of the warden? Do you think the nice lady giving him all the water earlier was the true warden? Or do you think the warden that we see now with the short temper that's snapping at Mr. Pendanski and snapping at all the boys, is that the true nature of the warden? You have to kind of decide which one you think. I have my opinion. They continued to dig until late afternoon, long after all the other groups had finished for the day. Stanley was down in the big hole, along with the 6 other boys. They had stopped using the wheelbarrow. He dug his shovel into the side of the hole. He scooped up some dirt and was raising it up to the surface when Zigzag's shovel caught him in the side of the head. He collapsed. He wasn't sure if he passed out or not. He looked up to see Zigzag's wild head staring down at him. "I ain't digging that dirt up," Zigzag said. "That's your dirt." "Hey, Mom," Magnet called. "Caveman's been hurt." Stanley brought his fingers up the side of his neck. He felt his wet blood and a pretty big gash just below his ear. Magnet helped Stanley to his feet, then up and out of the hole. Mr. Sir made a bandage out of a piece of his sack of sunflower seeds and taped it over Stanley's wound. Then he told him to get back to work. "It isn't nap time." When Stanley returned to the hole, Zigzag was waiting for him. "That's your dirt," Zigzag said. "You have to dig it up. It's covering my dirt." Stanley felt a little dizzy. He could see a small pile of dirt. It took him a moment to realize that it was the dirt which had been on his shovel when he was hit. He scooped it up, then Zigzag dug his shovel into the ground underneath where Stanley's dirt had been. Now, I'm going to go and highlight this part right here. I think this is kind of important to talk about that it was Stanley's dirt, and I want to make sure really quickly that you're clear on what's happening here. Stanley had picked up a shovel full of dirt, and as he was about to throw it out, Zigzag hit him in the head. When Zigzag hit him in the head, the dirt that Stanley had dug up dropped over where Zigzag was digging. So Stanley gets hit hard enough that he almost passes out. And their response to help him out with this big gash is to take a piece of sunflower sack and just tape it over and then get back to work. So when Stanley gets back down into the hole, Zigzag says, you need to dig up your dirt. And what Stanley realizes is that the dirt that had been on his shovel fell where Zigzag was digging, and Zigzag refused to scoop up even one more shovelful than he absolutely had to, and he made Stanley pick that dirt back up, put it on his shovel, and then get it out of there. I think that this kind of goes to show the extreme that the boys are feeling at this point. So upset about everything that's happening that they're not even willing to pick up not even a single extra shovelful of dirt. The other thing here that kind of makes me wonder is, do they think now, I wonder if X-Ray feels like it was worth it to find that gold tube now that he knows all this extra work that he's had to do. So, short chapter, but kind of a good one showing how extreme these conditions have gotten for these guys. That is where we are going to stop for today.